right, here we go. Today we have legendary gambler Mikki Mase, who has won over $32 million at casinos. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you, Vlad. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's your first time here. I want to start at the very beginning. So, born and raised in New Jersey.
Yes.
And you actually came from a fairly well-to-do family.
Yeah, for a short time. Like early years, they were doing great. Everything was fine. My dad got roped into some racketeering, went away for a while, lost everything, and we started over. But in that same time frame, I sort of scurried out on my own. I've basically been the same time that my dad went down was the same time that I basically been on my own. We just took different routes, and he came home to nothing anyway and started over. So there's really no support there other than just like emotional or family support. But my life took a different path, and I was on my own.
Okay, so your dad caught a RICO.
Yeah.
For what?
Mail fraud and bribery.
Mail fraud and bribery. What was he doing?
That's what he pled to.
Okay, what was he doing though?
I don't know,
You don't want to talk about it?
I don't know.
Okay. And how long did he go away for?
I think it was 60 months.
Okay, so that's 5 years?
Yeah. Well, it's Fed time, so they do months, but yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a stretch.
Yeah.
That's a stretch. Yeah. I mean, did he have a criminal history before then, or this is the first thing he got caught up in?
It was minor. That was his first Fed case. Anything he had before that was minor, but yeah, they took some time off the back. And it was pretty chill. He was at a camp, just chilling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, your family owned casinos at one point?
Not really. I know where that comes from. One time I made a comment that my great uncle owned a part of a casino. The real story is he won a piece of a casino in some random country I don't even know in a card game, and in the same card game lost that piece of the casino. So like when I said it like one time and it got blown out of proportion. I really just said it more like as a parody, like a funny comment almost. But no, my family does not own casinos.
Okay, but you yourself started gambling at age 8?
Yeah, maybe even younger. It was like what we did at family gatherings. Like, I come from a long line of high-stakes gamblers. So, like, family dinners, holiday parties, whatever. We just, like, play cards. We'd use coins, like pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and just play cards.
Okay, so you start messing around with gambling around 8. But then around 11, you started using drugs.
Right.
What was the drugs you started using at the beginning?
When I was 11, I was just smoking weed and drinking. And then when I was 12... I was doing pills and selling weed.
I mean, 12, so that's junior high.
Middle school, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like 6th grade maybe?
Yeah, I'd say around there.
Something like that. Okay, what kind of pills?
Basically anything. Being that young, it wasn't like I was like, first, I didn't have bills to pay, first of all. So I didn't need money. I just had this drive to hustle and this want to be accepted. And I was always friends with the older kids that were really doing drugs. So if I could bring drugs to them, it really captured me into their friend group, which is what I wanted. So any pills I can get my hands on, if I heard somebody was selling, Perk 30s or Xanax or any kind of narco or whatever, I'd be like, yo, let me get them. I'll put a little vig on it and just resell it to the older kids, and it just kind of worked itself out. But it wasn't like I was a full-blown trapper at 12. I was just selling pills every chance I got and weed.
Okay. Was your dad in jail by the time this was happening or no?
No, my dad went to prison when I was... Let's see. I went to prison first. I went to juvenile prison when I was 15. I came home while I was 16. That's when he went down. I was 16 when my dad went down.
Okay. So you're using drugs, lightweight selling drugs.
Sure.
And you start getting in trouble.
Yeah. I was getting in trouble.
A few years after that.
Yeah.
But you have a stable family, 2-parent home. You're not struggling. You're not in the hood.
Right.
How do your parents react to all this craziness that you're doing?
The using drugs was not cool. They by no means let that fly. So that was something I tried to every time I got caught using, what I really did was just try to turn it that I was selling. Because if I was selling drugs, it was really hard for them to get mad at me that I was making money. So as long as
you could get mad at your kid for selling drugs. Come on.
Yeah, of course, but it was a much different conversation. I was like, what do you want from me? I don't ask you guys for money. I buy my own clothes. I live my own life, and whatever. The conversation was much easier for me to handle than, oh, I'm just doing drugs,
Okay. And then, what was it, around 15, you actually started getting arrested for it?
I had been like on and off getting arrested since I was pretty young. I was always a bad, reckless kid,
Okay.
honestly. But yeah, I went to juvie when I was 15. I did 364 days, came home.
You did a whole year
Yeah.
at what age?
I went in at 15, came out at 16.
Okay, so here you are, a white kid at 15 years old,
Yeah.
getting locked up
Yeah.
with a whole bunch of kids that are, criminals.
They were real
essentially.
bad. Yeah, they were
Yeah,
real bad.
like really bad kids.
Real bad, yeah.
They're not coming from nice homes, two-parent homes, everything else like that. They're coming from much rougher circumstances.
For sure.
So when you go in, was there extortion, violence, that type of thing?
There was everything. There was all that. It was actually, and I've been to all the adult jails. I've been to every type of institution. Where I went as a juvenile was the worst place I've ever been in my life. And it ruined me in so many ways because it set this like idea of consequence that I knew that there would never be a place worse than that. And I believed that, and I happen to have been right, that I never feared consequences as I got older. So as I got arrested as an adult, I'm like, what's the worst you're going to do? Send me to a better version of where I already been? It was rough. There wasn't a lot of white kids in there. I was really kind of like dolo. Tons of violence, threat of violence. There was a lot of staff on kid violence too.
I bet.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
arrests made too. They ended up shutting down. So I got transferred after 6 months to another location. And they both ended up getting shut down eventually. But I think while I was in the second place, the first facility got shut down and raided by the feds. There's actually a Netflix documentary about it.
Any sexual assaults or anything else like that?
There's a lot of against me.
In general?
In general, there were a lot of sexual assaults, physical assaults, emotional abuse, all types of stuff, yeah.
Okay, did anyone ever try that on you?
There was like one sort of attempt against me. They did not succeed. I tell you that.
I'm sure it's pretty traumatic that here you are, 15 years old, and someone's actually trying to rape you, essentially.
Sure.
How did you fight that off?
So right before we locked in at night, we went into the cells, but the cells don't have locked doors. And I don't know what the reason was. It was almost like dormitory style, but there were still cells in the dorm. There was like three walls, basically. Well, there was like the back wall, there was like an external wall, and then like barriers here. And two kids ran in, and they were in cahoots with my bunkie, and they came in and they started saying, like threatening, like, oh, we're gonna sexually assault you. And I stood up, and before there could be any physical confrontation, staff started walking by and they just ran out.
Okay, but then you had to see him the next day.
Yeah, nothing ever came of it.
Okay, you got lucky.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, so you're kind of going in and out of this jail system.
Sure.
You don't graduate high school, so you get your GED while you're locked up.
Correct. And you know what's funny too is I not just got my GED, but I also studied on my own and took my SATs, and I applied as an adult while incarcerated to 5 colleges, and I got accepted to all 5.
Right, but you couldn't actually go.
Yeah, I was on a parole violation. I couldn't get re-paroled.
Okay, so you get out eventually. Was it around 20 years old?
Like for good, for good?
Yeah, I mean, after that stretch.
When I was something like that, 20, 21, something like that, I basically got out of the stretch, yeah.
Right. You first moved to New York City,
Uh-huh.
and then a few years later, you moved to Florida.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
At one point, Florida got too hot, so you moved back to New York.
Correct.
Was that when you started getting like the face tattoos and everything?
I started in Florida. Actually, it's not true. I got 2 face tattoos at the same time for my first face tattoos. And do you remember that show Black Ink on VH1?
Yeah.
Those guys were based in Harlem. That was their only location at the time. And I was living over there. And I knew them. And they'd call me one day and they're like, do you want to get your face tattooed on the show? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so I just walked in and did that. That was in New York. That was my first time. And I got both my sideburns done. And then after that, basically all my face tattoos were done in Florida. But in the chronological order you're talking about, it started the time that I was in Florida that you're referring to, and then when I went back to Florida.
Okay. I mean, when you get a face tattoo, it's different than getting your arm or your leg or, part of your body that you can cover up and go about as a typical looking American citizen. When you get your face tattooed, you're, kind of going all in. Basically saying, I can't get a regular 9-to-5 job anymore. people are going to look at me and assume certain things. When I'm in hip hop, I see people with face tattoos all the time. I don't think, anything of it. But when you're at a grocery store or whatever else, I'm sure you get the looks and everything else like that. You also attract law enforcement and so forth. So as you're getting it, did you care about any of this?
Yeah, but it's sort of what I was looking for. As I got older, everything that I thought was going to happen did happen. I just didn't have the foresight to take the wisdom of other people around me who had more life experience telling me that what I was thinking is right, but it would be so bad in the future, and it was. So all the way people interacted with me back then is what I was looking to get from it, but that's not the interactions I want today in my life anymore, and I still get that from people. So I've been removing them for 6 years.
Okay. Is that a painful process?
Yeah, but not as painful as living with them.
Okay. Okay, so now you're in New York and you're homeless.
Yeah.
And you're hustling and allegedly involved in strong-arm robberies.
Sure.
Allegedly. But you're not really making very much money.
I was just spending it all. Yeah, I was just surviving.
So you're still taking drugs during this time?
Yeah.
I mean, you have these kind of homeless camps.
Yeah.
Right? Like you go to Skid Row in LA. And, I have people in my family that grew up with drug addicts and everything else like that. And they used to always say that it's not a homeless problem, it's a drug problem. That when you have these permanent camps, these tents that have been there for years sometimes, it's really people who are addicted to drugs or self-medicating, and this is just an easy way for them to get it, because a lot of times you can get housing and everything else like that, but if you do, then you get drug tested and everything else like that, so people don't want to do that. Is that accurate based on what you've experienced?
Homelessness is a choice. The choices you made is what got you homeless, and the only reason you're still homeless is because you are continuing to make choices to keep you homeless. Everybody had the option to not become homeless in the first place. It's very rare that somebody from external circumstances became homeless. It's usually like self-driven bad choices. And even those that came from external things that weren't necessarily or directly their fault, the choices they made were to not do things to prevent that from happening. Like today, right? Like I pay my own bills. So somebody else couldn't make me homeless today. But there's a lot of people that aren't like that. A lot of people are just getting by, couch surfing or whatever it is. Like if they get a 9 to 5, they don't want to show up at 8 and leave at 6. They show up at 9:30 and they leave at 4:30, right?
Yeah, then they get fired.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between someone who's putting themselves in a position to be made homeless versus not. And then whatever. Then when you become homeless, there are so many ways to stop being homeless.
Yeah. But people don't choose to do them.
They don't choose to do them.
Yeah, like I said, there's all these programs where you could live. They'll give you a small apartment and so forth, but in order to live there for free, you have to take a drug test on a regular basis.
Yeah, they can also get a job.
That too.
I've worked while homeless, and it helped me get out of homelessness. And then I made more bad decisions that led me back to homelessness.
Okay, so you're homeless in New York. And then a friend of yours offers for you to move back to Florida and give you a place to stay.
Yeah, Charlie Hustle.
So now you're back in Florida again. And that's where you got clean?
Actually, I got clean while homeless in New York. That's how it started. And for like a short period, I was clean there, homeless still, and then went to New York. And that's where I gained recovery. That's where I gained life. I wasn't just dry anymore. I wasn't just existing, not using. I was living, not using.
Right. You went to AA and everything else like that. Did that really help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, lifesaver.
Okay. So you're living in Florida. You've gotten clean. And you get a job painting houses.
Right. For a guy named Sean Dalton. I still talk to all these guys, man. They saved my life.
Right. And you were painting rehab centers.
Yeah.
And that actually gave you the idea to start your own rehab centers.
There was a bunch of steps in between, but yeah, basically, so Charlie Hustle's landlord was Sean Dalton. So Sean came to the house one time when I was there with Charlie just to check on the house, and he just asked Charlie yo, is your boy over there down to paint a house for me? I'll give him $100. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So Charlie connected me and Sean, and I went to work for him. by coincidence, he had a contract doing construction and whatever on these rehab facilities. They're actually sober living homes owned by the rehab. Is exactly what it was. And from there, when we finished that contract, there was no more work until Sean got like another job, But he was chilling. He made so much. And the guys from that center came to me and were like, yo, we know you're out of work. We know you're sober now and trying to improve your life. Do you want to work with us in-house? And the short version is I did, and I kept getting raises and promotions, and I saved up enough pennies, and I gained enough knowledge to open my own.
Right. That actually grew to a whole bunch of rehab centers.
Yeah.
Like, how many did you own at one point?
It's a little bit of a trick question because you can take like partial contracts with a lot of treatment centers, and sometimes they'll have it for a day, and they'll be like, oh, we found someone that'll do it cheap, you're out. So it's a little bit of a trick question.
So you don't actually own the rehab centers outright?
There was a few that I owned. I own no I don't qualify to own a license.
Aha.
So I can only be an owner through operating agreements. It's the only way. I can't own a license.
Okay. Because you also own 300 pharmacies? Not really?
Yeah, so I did, but that's another thing from the no jump interview that we were talking about before we started today. Like, I could have said that same fact in a much more digestible sentence, right? Me and my two partners owned a company, and that company owned a piece of a 300 pharmacy network.
Aha. Okay.
That's like the reality.
You didn't own them outright. You guys had...
No. I don't qualify to own those licenses either. Yeah.
Right. And you said the rehab business is predatory.
Super predatory.
Explain.
There's good guys and there's bad guys, and there's no way to police the difference from the outside. So it becomes a really fine area. The reason that I call it predatory is you're making money directly off the backs of addiction and mental illness, right? The sicker the patient is, the worse they are, the more times they relapse and all that, the more you can just keep billing their insurance or charging the family or whatever it is. It started with a great concept. There's people that are homeless or on drugs or have mental illness, and we want to save their lives. So the concept of the industry started great. Once the money like really started rolling in, everybody was like, where's the line between being morally good and morally bad because you're making money? It became really hard to navigate which people were on what line. Everyone wanted to lie. Nobody wanted some people were just like, yo, I'm a scumbag and I just want to make money off human beings, right? I just want a patient broker. There's people that are like that. But most people would lie about it. And it'd be really hard to get to the truth. So as a treatment center owner, it's really hard sometimes to figure it out. So mostly we just kept a smaller centers in different regions so we can do our own thing and not have to worry about dealing with people that might be shady.
Okay, but you had two business partners, right?
Yeah.
And at one point you guys had a falling out.
Sure.
And you bought them out.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you grew the business.
Correct.
And then you sold the business.
Correct.
How much did you sell it for?
I don't want to say.
Okay. Millions? Okay. So now you've sold your business.
Yeah.
You got a few dollars in the bank.
Yeah. I had more money at that point than I ever had in my life.
You moved to LA.
Correct.
What was that whole experience like? Now you're in LA, you've got money. Do you have a job at all, or you're just living off your, the money you made?
Yeah. So when I bought my two partners out, one was murdered and the other just kind of went, not into hiding, but he took the money I gave him and just sort of lived a peaceful life, like in the distance. No one really heard of him. No one knows where he went exactly. So the one that was murdered was my best friend. And so my best friend was murdered. I sold my companies. My long-term girlfriend and I, we split up. So I really had nothing going on in Florida. And I was like, let me just shake it up. Let me do something new. And I lived in all the major cities on the East Coast. I was like, let me try something new. Let me try LA. And I had this idea for a new business, and I still think it'd be great. And the perfect place to beta test it was LA because I needed two polar extremes. I needed a place of high, incredible income and incredibly low income to beta test my concept. And I figured LA County had the most extremes and the closest area. So, and I just wanted to try LA. I never lived in LA. So I came out to LA, and in the beginning, I just lived off that money. Bro, it would've been, I don't know, I could have lived a really long time, without ever having to make $1, just chilling. And I did. I got this penthouse downtown, and got a new car, and just was chilling. And then COVID hit, and between me splitting up with my girl, Rizzo being murdered, and whatever, a new city, I was super lonely, and I only knew one person in LA. Everything was shut down, so I couldn't meet people. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't like do anything. And I was just alone. And it was like kind of sad. It was like I had all the money in the world. I'd worked so many years for it. I'd accomplished all these things. And then everybody in my life was gone, whether dead or broken up, and just I'm alone in a city I've never been in and whatever. And the one guy I knew here, we had known each other through the treatment business. And he hit me up one day and he goes, yo, there's this underground card room in LA that decided to operate through COVID. Do you want to come play? And I'm like, bro, I'll do anything to get out of the crib. And so I went with him. It was actually a really small stakes game, but it was like my first taste of LA social life. It was the first time I got to meet people and like see action, and like everybody in that room acted like COVID didn't exist, and they're like telling me about LA, and the women all there were wearing lingerie or less, and just like I don't drink or anything even at that at that point, but the liquor was flowing, the drugs were going, like everyone was having a good time. I was sober, but everyone was having a good time, and that was the first time I felt happy to be in LA. And then I told my boy, I was like, yo, take me to another one. He took me to the same game. So they open up twice a week, that game. So he took me to I think it was like Tuesdays and Thursdays or something, or Tuesday and Friday, I forget. And I went to the second one, I had a good time. And I started talking to all the players, and the players recognized me from the first game. They go, yo, I heard about this other spot opening up on Wednesdays. You want to play that game? And I go, yeah. And then I started playing 6 days a week at all these underground card rooms around LA. And like, that's where my life started to build.
Okay. So you're playing these underground gambling spots.
Yeah.
Right? These aren't actual casinos.
Correct.
Any worry about getting robbed or cheated or anything else like that? Because it's completely unregulated, right?
Correct.
Someone could bust in, rob everyone.
Yeah, correct. So there were a bunch of games that got knocked over, which means robbed. But the thing with most of these games is there are lines of credit to try to avoid that. There's two reasons they avoid that. One, if there's no cash, it's not a crime. And two, if there's no cash, there's nothing to rob. So mostly that's what it was. And to be honest, all of us basically were strapped anyway. And there's armed security. One of my homies was security. He got shot and killed outside of a game, trying to protect the game from getting robbed.
Damn.
Yeah, here in LA. Actually, not even like too long ago. It was in the news, but for the most part, you'd be one of 20 guns if you walked in there anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but your friend gets killed.
Yeah.
So
people die every day.
This thing actually happens. It goes down like that.
Yeah, but people die every day in all types of environments.
Yeah, but some are more dangerous than others. I'm just saying.
Sure.
An illegal card operation, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars that a person might think is in that room.
That's the thing. So somebody might think there's money in those rooms, but there's really not.
Okay. Have you yourself ever had a problem, in these underground rooms?
A problem how?
Any kind of problem. Someone trying to rob you, the house trying to rip you off, another player trying to get over.
Okay, yeah. So never like has somebody like pressed me in a game. Like that's never happened. It's also not really that type of environment, It's like a neutral gang territory, right? Like it's one place that everybody goes, no matter like who you're with or what you're there. Bro, there's games where we played with like gang leaders and cops at the same table. It's like that's one spot. There's no phones. Nobody talks about it.
Oh, so you can't even have your phone or anything?
All the girls that work the games sign NDAs and get their phones taken at the door.
Huh.
The players keep the phones, but everybody knows like nobody wants, like everybody knows we don't want to be filmed while we film someone
else. No
else.
one's pulling off going on Instagram Live or anything else like that. Right, okay.
No, but then also like as time went on and more people through the COVID time were willing to run games, the higher stakes games came. And the higher stakes you left that like grimy, dirty stuff behind. Like eventually I got to a point where playing on like there's a private island like off Miami that I played poker at. They run a game there pretty consistently. There's games in Puerto Rico, there's games in Manhattan. Like these games at high levels are all like celebrities, billionaires, politicians, and there's none of that happening. Like there is no grime, there's no crime, there's no like thuggery about it. Like they're super classy. They have like actresses as the cocktail waitresses.
Actual actresses that you've seen in movies?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Almost every girl that I met for my first like 3 years in LA, I met at the poker games. They're the most beautiful women in the world. Like it's unbelievable. And they're just there in lingerie or less, like providing services and being friendly,
Right. I'm sure they're getting a lot of tips in the process.
It's a lot of money flowing to everybody.
Money flowing, exactly. Okay, and Baccarat is the game that you mostly play.
I won, yeah. That's the game that I won the most money at. Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't always do Baccarat. You started out with blackjack
Yeah.
and double deck blackjack.
Yeah.
And eventually you got to Baccarat.
Yeah. I like double deck the most, yeah.
What exactly is it about Baccarat that gives you an advantage, you feel?
It was easier to decipher how the casino was rigging the game Baccarat than it was the other games. Like, blackjack, you can, like, I know how they rig the games in blackjack, and there's, like, numerous ways, but they're sort of harder to work around than Baccarat. Baccarat was, like, very cut and dry. When I first, they've changed a lot of the systems since I started exposing them for the way that they were setting the game up. But in the beginning, when I came in, they had, like, one standard way that they would rig the game. It worked for them. It made sense.
Okay, give me an example. When you say rig the game, how do they rig the game? How do you rig a card game like Baccarat?
I can't say too much. I'll give you an example that I've already put on the air one time. So I went to go play at a casino that I was regularly playing high stakes at. Actually, whatever. So I was playing there. And I pull up, and the Baccarat tables are different. The new felt, new rail, new computer monitor. I don't know if you know Baccarat, but there's like a monitor at every table that represents the data of all the cards that came out already.
Okay.
Everything was new. And I looked at the monitor, and there was like this section of graphs that I've never seen before. And I played so much Baccarat. I'm like, how have I never seen this? So I says to the dealer, I says, do you know what that means? The dealer says, no, I don't. I says to the dealer at the Baccarat table next door, I says, do you know what this means? She says, no, I don't. I said, floor, do you know what this means? The floor says, I don't know what it means. We're still learning the system. We haven't got training. And I'm thinking, like, that's so weird. Like, why would you just make up, like, a weird graph? I go, no problem. I'm going to play and figure it out. So I play the first hand. Whatever I bet, banker play or whatever. I won the first hand. Cool. I bet again second hand. Second hand comes out and I lose. I probably, let's pretend I bet player. I don't know what I actually bet. I bet banker player. If I bet player, banker came out natural 9, so I lost. Oh, no good. No sweat. Like, all good. I lost one hand. So I go to look up at the monitor to try to, like, make sense of what I'm looking at to gauge what I think I should bet for the third hand. The monitors are displaying the bank 2 cards and the player 2 cards that are on the table. Now, I lost natural 9, and I forget exactly what the cards were, but it was like 5-4 was on the table, right? And I look up at the monitor, and I just notice that it says 7 deuce. So I go, wait a second. I go, the monitor knows that I lost to a bank natural 9. Doesn't know how the natural 9 was made, so it made up any data it wanted and then gave that to me as fact. I go, then the monitor is making up every piece of information along the whole way and the whole time portraying to me as fact. And if I'm actually using that monitor to compile the data to make my hand of the next probability, and the board is lying to me, if the monitor is all fabricated, then everything's a lie. And the casino's lying to me. They're cheating me through fake data. So I said, nobody touch the cards, nobody touch anything. I need to talk to an executive. So I bring an executive down. I go, I caught you cheating. She goes, oh yeah, how? I go, I lost to a natural 9, 5-4. Your board's telling me 7 deuce. It's making up all the data it wants. It's misguiding me. It's misrepresenting data that's going to make me lose. And she says, you have 30 minutes to pack your bags and get out.
Huh. Okay, because you didn't have a 7-2?
No, I had a 5-4.
Oh, okay.
The real cards were still on the table. It said 5-4. The monitor says I had a 7 deuce.
Okay. During this time, you're doing the underground circuit.
Sure.
Are you going to the casinos as well? Are you going to Vegas and so forth?
So they were shut down. I forget exactly what portion. I'll tell you in the beginning phases they were shut down. Then they started opening back up. And when they started opening up is when I started going again. Yeah.
Okay. How much are your big wins during this time?
So my main gambling career that like everyone on the internet wants to know about took place over 3 years. Mm-hmm. In the first year, I would have like a weekly win, small, like anywhere from 20 to 50K. It was pretty much every week. It was pretty consistent. It was chilling. And honestly, it was not too much more than just luck in the beginning. Because I wasn't going to Vegas trying to win. I was trying to go to Vegas because it was the city that stayed open or opened up before LA did. And I was just trying to have a life. So I was just going there and I was like, I like to gamble. Let me gamble. And like the first week, like I won, I don't know, 20K, something like this. And the casino was like, all right, cool. If you want to come back next week, we'll give you like a room for free. I'm like, oh, sweet, like a free trip, you know? Then I'd win again. They'd be like, oh, if you want to come back next week we'll also pay for your commercial airfare. I'm like, oh, cool. They're going to pay like everything. Then they're like, oh, do you want a private jet or like whatever it is? So in the beginning, I was just winning small, like 20 to 50K, basically weekly. In my second year, it was mostly 6-figure wins. At roughly the 18th month mark, it's like halfway through my 3 years, I had my first $1 million win, my first 7-figure win. It was I think it was either 1.125 or 1.250. I can't remember exactly my first one. I have a video of it, but whatever it was, I broke the $1 million. And that was like a huge moment for me where I realized like this is possible. And we locked in. It was me and my best friend Ian. We just locked in. And at that point, they became $1 million wins. And then for the balance of my third and final year before getting like perma-banned everywhere, I averaged out to be $1 million a week winner.
Okay. Now, you said you don't count cards.
I mean, I can count cards. Counting cards is not hard, but no, that's not my strategy, but counting cards is not hard.
Okay, counting cards means you keep track of what's still in the hand and what cards have gotten played, and you're working out, the statistics and the percentages based on what's going to come out based on and so forth.
Yeah.
Do people count cards on a high level? For example, you ever see the movie Rain Man?
Sure.
Dustin Hoffman was like autistic, and he could just sit there and just, know right off the bat how to count cards, and but he can't really function normally, and eventually gets banned from the casino and so forth. Are there actual card counters that have the type of brain that they can count cards all day long?
Yeah, for sure.
You met people like this?
Yeah, I know tons of them. Yeah.
Okay, but the casinos try to stop this.
Yeah, so some of those brightest card counting minds get hired to work for the casino in surveillance. And they help two things. They help hands-on, like with actual watching live in real time, catching card counters. They watch back tapes of suspected card counters, and the guy who's like a bright mind at counting cards goes, yeah, he's counting cards. Or the third way is they help create the software. They help like give the software developers the data that they use in their brain to count cards or to catch a suspected card counter, so the software can pick it up also.
Okay, but counting cards is not technically illegal, is it?
It's not illegal. If it was illegal, they'd get arrested.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's just frowned upon.
Right.
It's bad for business if you're a casino owner.
Right. Now, the casinos are corporations, but they're not public organizations, meaning that they could decide who is allowed in the casino. So if
they're public companies.
Yeah.
But it's private property, so they're allowed to refuse business for any reason or no reason.
Right. So if they say, listen, we don't like you, you're not allowed in here, we're not going to give you a reason, you can't sue or anything else like that to get back in.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it goes so extreme, and I've posted this video before. I got thrown out of a casino way early in my career for having tattoos on my hands and face, on camera, and they told me that was the reason. And so I just went to a couple lawyer friends of mine, and I go, like, what's up with this? What's your thoughts? And it was the D, by the way, or Circa, with the same owner. That's who threw me out. And the lawyers go, having tattoos is not a protected class. Like, your suit wouldn't have validity, So they can throw you out because they don't like the way you look. And it happened to me on camera.
Okay. Your single biggest night, how much did you win?
My single biggest session win was $11,526,000.
$11,526,000. Clearly, that number is stuck in your head.
Yeah.
How long were you playing for to win that?
It happened over a 7-day period, but I was short playing the whole time. So I'd play 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 4 minutes. And over 7 days, it accumulated to a little over $11.5 million.
So you would jump in, play for a couple of minutes, and leave?
Yeah. Well, I flat bet $250,000 a hand. So you can deal...
Wait, you're playing $250,000 a hand?
Yeah, that's what I bet, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you can deal fast, and some dealers are faster than others, but also I pressure them to deal fast. I don't need you to take longer. Like, there's no need... Like, I don't need that suspense. Like, I made a decision, give me the cards, did I win or not, So if you deal fast, and I play 4 hands, I could win $1 million in a minute.
Okay. What's the most you lost?
$8 million.
$8 million.
Yeah.
How long did that take?
Like a whole night. It took me a whole night to lose that.
How did you feel at the end of the night?
Technically, okay. To answer that question, it wasn't I had gone in the beginning when I was down like 5 million, between 3 and 5 million, I was super angry, like naturally, you know? I was like angry and pissed off, and like the term's like on tilt. That's like the gambling term. I was just like pissed. Then when I lost more than that, I was just confused. I go, there's no way. It would have to be a mathematical anomaly for me to lose this many hands in a row without winning. It's impossible, improbable. I go, they're cheating. It's the only realistic answer. Because you cannot, bro, you can either be banker or player. You only have 2 options. It's always going to be one of them, unless it's a tie, which is not really relevant. But basically, it's always going to be one of them. To lose that many hands in a row without winning one, a guy who's never played in his life is going to do better than, 0 hands won. So I'm being cheated. I get it. And so I bought in for my last million. And when I figured out how they cheated, I figured it out, and I ended up winning 9 million. It took me 45 minutes. So I want my money back plus $1 million.
How are they cheating?
I don't want to say exactly.
Roughly, if you could kind of say without being specific.
It was
how they cheated you out of $8 million. That's a huge amount of money.
It was a manual, real-time adjustment of cards.
Aha. Okay. The thing about making and losing money, like for me, I don't gamble, but I invest in stocks.
Sure.
So before I started, I read Warren Buffett's book. And then I read the book of the guy he learned from and started reading a lot of stuff and everything else like that. And the thing about investing, and you could say the same thing about gambling, it's just, gaining and losing money, is it all comes down to emotions. The thing that I learned about emotions is that a person will have the same emotional reaction to winning $10,000 that they do to losing $1,000. Do you see what I'm saying with this?
Okay.
Meaning that you could win $10,000 and be really happy, and you could be just as upset losing only $1,000. Meaning that there is a huge discrepancy when you lose. You lose $1,000, it feels like, your life is over. You win $10,000, you're happy, but then people, that's the house's money anyways. I'm just going to gamble it again and then end up losing it all anyways. You see what I'm saying? So being able to control your emotions really is the difference between people who make a lot of money and who say, it's all a scam, I'm just going to quit. Do you agree with this?
So it's a twofold answer. The first is, which I'll answer more surfacely, that's the difference between a recreational gambler and a professional gambler. So we understand that we're not playing with money, we're playing with units. It's only money when you're buying in and cashing out. But while you're gambling, they're just units. If I bought in for $10 and I had 10 $1 chips, or I bought in for $1 million and I had 10 $100,000 chips, my units is the same. I'm still betting 1 chip or 2 chips or 3 chips. And a lot of people that are recreational gamblers can't decipher that. To them, they're betting money, and that makes them emotional, and it changes the way they play, and it totally screws up everything for them. It really minimizes their chance of walking away a winner. There's so much going on when you correlate it directly to money. Then the more, what I think is interesting actually, if you're not familiar, I'll just tell you, do you know what makes a gambling addict?
What makes a gambling addict? Someone that will continue gambling even when they know it's hurting them. It's hurting their lifestyle, their family, themselves, but they continue to do it.
That's a good and accurate part of the answer, and the answer is very complex. There's many components. One thing, when you lose gambling, your brain releases a chemical, and your brain becomes addicted to that chemical. That chemical doesn't get released when you win. So you could win as much as you want, and your brain is still craving the feeling of the chemical that only gets released when you lose, which is why a lot of gambling addicts aren't necessarily bad gamblers. They're not bad at anything, but they don't realize their brain is addicted to the feeling of the chemical that gets released when they lose, which is why they keep going back. They can't call it quits. They can't anything.
Because they want to lose.
Subconsciously, because their brain is craving the feeling of that chemical being released. And they don't even realize it. I mean, how many stories have you heard is, I should have walked away while I was up. I was winning and then I stopped. Then I lost. Why didn't you pull me? Yo, bro, why didn't you pull me away when I was up? And the guy's like, well, I tried, and you said you wanted to keep playing. They don't realize that subconsciously their brain's addicted to the chemical being released when they lose.
You know, like I said, I invest in stocks. And sometimes when I give just general guidelines in terms of what I do, you know, because you can't really give stock advice. But when I say, hey, you know, when I invest, I do this, this, and this, a lot of people say, well, that's no different than gambling. Stock investing, gambling, you could win, you could lose. It's the exact same thing. Do you agree with that?
Very closely, I would say they are aligned. Stocks and card games.
Do you ever invest in stocks?
I don't. I am not. For me to become educated enough to be confident and make reasonable decisions and investments in stocks, I would have to stop everything I'm doing in life and for a very extended period of time study before I placed a single investment, and I'm just unwilling to devote the time.
That's a good way of looking at it. I can tell you there is a primal difference between the two. Gambling is a zero-sum game, right? You play, whether you win or lose, nothing actually changes. There's no assets that are transferred. Money gets transferred one way or another. When you invest in stocks or real estate or a piece of a company that you buy outright, you're actually buying something. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, for example, I own Amazon stock. Mm-hmm. I own a percentage of the stock. If Amazon continues to do well over time, my stock will become more valuable because the company as a whole is worth more, so my percentage becomes more valuable. Mm-hmm. If the company starts to lose money over time, the company will be worth less, and what I have is now less valuable. It's very different than gambling, because at the end of, no matter what happens, you don't own a piece of the casino when you walk away.
Right.
Nor does the casino own a piece of your future earnings if you lose. So that's kind of the difference. And, you know, I'm not a gambler. Whenever I've walked into a casino, I look around and I see the billion-dollar property and I say, this was all built off people losing.
100%. You know that if people didn't lose, casinos can't exist.
Of course. That was obvious to me in the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was just completely obvious to me. I'm like, this is all built. The entire operation, all the staff, all the food, all the cops, the electricity, you know, the advertising.
Yeah.
It's all built off people losing and losing and losing and coming back and losing and so forth.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a guy named Terry Watanabe? Terry Watanabe lost over $200 million.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's the Asian guy.
The Asian guy.
Yeah, he had a GoFundMe recently for his cancer.
Yes.
I know this guy.
I think when his...
It's a toy company. Right?
Yeah, it was called like Oriental Trading Company. It was like little toys and whatever else. Yeah. He sold it and started going to Caesars.
Yep.
And he got to a level, they created a level for him. They actually created a level. You know how you have the different levels as gamblers, you know, whatever
7
else?
stars at Caesars, yeah.
They created a whole new level for him.
Yeah.
And he lost over $200 million.
Right, yeah.
They allowed him to play while he was stone drunk. Mm-hmm. They gave him, you know, tickets to shows.
He sued them for that. He lost.
He lost, and the casino was fined. Well, the casino was fined $225,000.
Yeah, and $200 million, no problem.
After $200 million, I think that's a pretty good. Yeah, and ultimately, at the end of the day, he became so broke that he couldn't even pay for his own cancer treatment. He had to start a GoFundMe. I've been trying to interview this guy forever.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been talking to someone, they're like, oh, he's got a movie deal in the works or something. But I remember seeing a video about this, and I was just, like, floored.
Yeah.
Have you seen situations like this as well?
Yeah, all the time.
So guys just go completely in the hole, go from being wealthy to being completely broke.
Yeah, it even happened in my family. Like, my same great uncle, the guy who, like, won the casino in a card game and lost it back. Like, he lost everything. That great uncle. I think I don't want to, like, be rude, but I'm pretty sure he died with nothing left. Don't quote me on that, because I don't really know. He and I, like, weren't close. Like, he's obviously much older, you know, but he passed away a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure he died with nothing.
Well, you started getting banned from casinos at one point.
Yeah.
What casinos are you currently banned from?
Basically all of them.
Every Vegas casino.
In Vegas, I got banned from Fontainebleau like 2 weeks ago. but they told me that they would love to still have me there for dinner and shows. But I can't. I'm banned. I'm barred from. Specifically, I'm barred from gaming. I'm not trespassed from property.
Right. You would say casinos would turn you away because they would flag you as a shark player or an advantage player.
Right.
What do those two terms mean?
An advantage player is the same thing as a shark player. It means that you have an uncommon edge, or you have an edge over the casino, just period. If you have an edge over the casino, you're an advantage player. Like card counters, advantage players. Slot hustlers, advantage players. It just means that you're, over the long term, mathematically likely to win.
Okay. But before you were banned, they would go all out to
For
get
sure.
you back in this casino.
Yeah, so in the beginning, like I said, I was winning like small, like 20 to 50K a week, like whatever. And to them, that was like mid-level, no problem. And they're just thinking like, oh, like he's up a few $100,000, no big deal.
He'll eventually give it all back to us.
Yeah, one bad trip, he'll give it all back and then some. And then to them, all of these like comps, like the private jet, the free villas.
You had private jets,
Yeah.
villas.
Yeah.
What else?
They gave me a Maybach. They gave me a Rolls Royce.
Like just to use though.
Yeah, and both
Okay.
of them came with my own chauffeur.
Okay.
They gave me full-time, indefinite residencies in like secret villas in their building. I had 24-hour butler service in all of them. I got ringside tickets to every single championship fight that took place in Vegas over those years. They gave me stage access to every concert. They literally anything that they gave me. They used to give me everything, helicopter rides, all that. You know what they gave me one time? It was really cool. We got to video this. Was at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Las Vegas has a professional race team, and they're sponsored by Lamborghini. So during the off season, they paid to get one of the drivers to give me the previous season's race Lamborghini to race on their racetrack, and I crashed it too.
You crashed a Lamborghini.
It was sick, and they told me when I pulled up, they go, the only thing we're not covering is if you hurt yourself. Other than that, we don't even need your credit card. I'm like, say less.
So you crashed the car and they just paid for it.
It was sick. Yeah, nobody even
insurance.
questioned me. Like, we laughed about it on the way out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So at one point though, you get banned from every casino. Are you still gambling overseas and
Now?
private games? I mean, after you get banned from the casinos.
I was playing in private games for a while after that, and then I started to slow down on that too. There's really no need for me to gamble anymore. Like, I kind of did it, you know? And now when I gamble, I just gamble on Kirgo.com. It's safe, it's protected, and I'm just like chilling.
Okay, because you actually talked about how you would fund 100% of other people betting.
I do that.
So how would that work? So let's just say I'm like, hey, I want to be part of this deal.
Yeah.
How would it work?
Okay, so I post, I would say like once every 3 months on my Instagram story, a link. And I used to do it pretty discreetly. Now I'm just like, this is the link. If you want to click it, you know? And they fill out, I think it's either 9 or 11 questions. I can't remember. And those questions, it's very simple. Like, I don't need your address. I don't need your social security number. I don't need anything. It's so simple what I need. I'm really just gauging where you currently gamble and your skill level on those gambling. And I'm not saying that a 10 is, I'm not saying is good. I'm not saying a 0 is good. The reason I don't want to give that information is because that alone doesn't qualify or disqualify you. It's a mixture of all the questions. And so people listening will think like, oh, if I put I'm a 10 expert level, then I'm guaranteed to get in. And then they'll screw up the other questions. So just always be honest. Honesty is the best way because it comes out anyway. Mm-hmm. But you answer, I forget if it's 9 or 11 questions, I forget. But you answer those questions and it gets submitted to a form that my staff looks at. And if you answer the certain questions correctly, they'll contact you. And then they'll take your casino information, your betting information, and I fund 100% of the action. So if there's ever a loss, I cover 100% of it. And on the wins, you get a free piece of the action.
Are you telling them what to bet on?
I'm doing it for them.
Meaning what?
It's all remote. It's all online.
But it's happening real time though.
Real time, but it's all
But
remote.
you can't check your phone while you're gambling.
It's all online.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they go and set up an online account.
Yeah, but there's specific ones. It's not just like any online account works. Like, again, there's a vetting process. There's specific qualifiers, but just if everyone's just honest when they fill out the form, like if you lie, it'll come out. Like I said, but yeah, I fund 100% of the action.
Okay, so let's just say you pick me
Sure.
as one of your gamblers. I say, great. I go and go online to one of these betting sites that you approve
If it's
of.
the correct one, yeah.
Okay. And then you give me the money?
Yeah.
So you give me how much?
The money goes directly to the bet, so it's real time getting placed on the action. I'm not handing you cash because then you'll just run away.
Right.
Just run away.
Yeah, no, I'm just seeing how it works.
So the money gets placed directly into the bet. There is one spot in theory that you could rob me, and that's when it wins. It's winning in your name. So you are collecting the winnings, and then you have to send me my share. But it also ensures that you'll never get robbed or played. But I'm taking the risk that you're going to rob me or not. It would be really dumb to, because it's super short-sighted, and it rarely happens. You have to like super dumb.
You've been robbed before?
In this project? Yeah, but it's so rare, because you have to be like a really dumb person. We win one time, and you run off with the winnings is really dumb, because if you just stuck around, we win every single week. You would have made whatever you would have made from stealing my piece would have been paid back by the third week. You would have already made more than that in your fourth week.
Okay, so how big are these bets?
I can just show you if you want.
Well, no, I mean, you could tell me. You know what I'm saying? I believe you.
It
So give me an example of like a bet. So I go in this with you. I go online, and you place a bet for how big? 100,000, 10,000,
It
5,000?
depends on your limits. Every single person has different limits, and it also depends on your account. For example, I would say an average account is like $5,000 a week in max bets total, right? So we have to decide how many bets do we predict we're going to place on this guy's account, knowing his history is that he really doesn't bet more than 5K total for a week. And we decide based on how many bets we plan on placing to break that 5K into different bets. So we might have one that's a banger. We'll be like, all right, place 3K on this. And then if we have a couple more that are like decent bets, then we just place the balance of the money across.
So it's not a lot of money each shot.
But, well, some guys have $1 million accounts. Some guys have huge betting limits and huge history.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You're talking about an average Joe. An average Joe doesn't have $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
But an example of more of a high roller.
Sure.
A single bet would be how much?
50,000 per bet, and your average high roller has an account worth about $250,000 a week in bets. So on average, on those high roller accounts, there's $250,000 that I can wager each week, and usually they're broken up into about 50K bets.
Okay, so you place a 50K bet that I'm playing. I win 100K.
Okay.
Right?
100K profit. So now you have a total of 150.
Let's just say I win 50K. You
Okay,
put
bet 50, win
and I double
50.
the money.
Sure.
So now I have 100K, but you put up 50K.
Right.
So does that mean that you get your 50K back and then I send you another 25K and I keep 25?
Depending on what we negotiate for your percentage. Yeah, so I get principal back and then we do that. Yeah, sure.
Something like that.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not asking for exact percentage, but it's something like that.
It's always also negotiated, especially with the high rollers. So this, by the way, I didn't like invent this. This is like a thing that's been happening in the dark for like a long time. They're called horses. This is like a thing that happens. I'm the only gambler in history that's ever had this kind of reach. So I was like, yo, I can repurpose this and I can just literally put it on the internet and we can gain hundreds of thousands of accounts, and we have. So when it comes to the super high rollers, most of them already know the game. So they'll be like, oh, you're offering me X percent? Well, I'll only give it to you if you give me Y percent. I'm not going to burn the deal. It's free money. So we'll always say yes, basically.
Well, it's free money when you win. But
We win. We have losing weeks, but we're always net
what I'm
profit.
saying is, on the flip side, you put 50K on a bet, the bet goes through, I lose.
Costs you nothing.
Cost me nothing, but you
Cost
just
me
lost
50K.
50,000.
Right. No matter what percent of the wins you were going to get, it still cost me 50K.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're saying over time, you guys win.
For sure. Yeah, I could, like I said, I'll show you everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing good. Real good.
So you prefer this method as opposed to actually gambling yourself. But aren't you taking more risk this way because you're only winning on the upside and losing on the downside?
Well, that's all gambling.
Well, no, because you would win 100% if you did it yourself.
But instead, I'm winning only a piece of it.
Exactly.
Well, I don't have a choice. I'm banned everywhere.
Aha.
So I couldn't gamble
So it's a
myself.
disadvantage, but you have to work around the
Yeah, this is
reality.
the only way for me to like lay action. Yeah.
Well, but you could bet online legally.
On Kiergo, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
And I do. But even there, there's limits. Eventually, I hit limitations. So imagine I had my personal account plus 100,000 horses.
You have that many horses.
I'll tell you exactly right now.
When you say horses, are these people or these
Yeah.
bets?
People.
You're saying you have 100,000 people that you're betting through.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay. You want me to show you?
You want to put it on the screen or you want to show me in person?
It has people's information on it.
No, okay.
Yeah. You scroll as far as you want. You're gonna go scroll way faster than that. It's probably loading. It's probably down there.
Okay. I'm at 3,000 right now. I'm
Yeah.
at 3,032. Did it stop loading?
I'm not sure if it's still loading. And if you want, I can show you the dollars.
There's actually a Vlad in here. Right there.
Is it you?
No, it's not. I don't bet.
I'm not sure if it's still loading or that's where it stops.
Okay.
And then, you want to see the dollars? So here's all the bets. Here's every single bet I've placed on every single one of those accounts. So there's their info, blah, blah, blah. Here's the dates. This is all the bets.
Wait. I saw some.
The red is
14. Okay, that's a loss.
the red is the losses.
Okay, so there's $1,000. Okay. I mean, there are quite a bit of losses mixed in here, but I
Sure.
guess that's the nature of it.
Yeah, of course. You got to think, we place, 10 bets per account per week. Some of them got to lose.
Okay.
And then here's the totals. That's what I've paid out so far.
Can I say it out loud?
Sure.
$1.9 million.
Yeah. That's been paid out to the fans.
Okay. Wow.
It's $1.9 million paid to my fans so far for using their accounts since October 8th.
Wait, you're talking about
1 year. 1 year.
October 8th of last year.
1 year. Yeah.
Okay.
We started with my first 4 accounts October 8th, 2023. And since then, we got to no less than 3,000, whatever you saw. I'm not sure if it was still loading. I don't know, but
Well, how do you, as someone who runs a business and has employees and deals with clients and everything else like that, how do you manage thousands of people? How big is your staff?
big staff.
How big?
It depends on what department. In like the logistics department,
Overall, how many people in your company?
there's 12 like in my immediate. But then we use other networks to get a lot of the winning action. There's a huge network of like sharp gamblers. We
Wow.
all trade information.
This is a whole like underground society like that
There's-
I have no idea even exists. You know what I mean?
There's-
'Cause
yeah.
my name Vlad. Well, Vlad showed up, and you were like, "Are you one of them?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I can clearly tell you I'm not because I don't gamble."
I believe you.
You know, I don't have
believe
to. I don't have to make this up. I don't
Yeah.
gamble. I mean, I've done very well stock investing, so I just leave it alone. But
There's 12 people in my immediate group that handle onboarding, logistics, and payouts to the fans. And placing the wagers. I'm sorry.
okay, are there contracts signed between everybody?
It doesn't really need to be
Okay, but can someone sue you?
for winning them money.
Well, if you lose, well, I guess there is no loss.
There's no loss.
There's
The
no
only
loss.
loss is on me.
Wow, is this legal?
100% legal. Bro, you know how much yellow tape I had to go through? Oh my God. There's so much yellow tape. There's a guy, he's based, I think, in Atlantic City named Sharky. And he does the same thing that I do. It's the same, but I'm just much bigger than him. But he's been doing it for, I don't know, like 20 years or something. And he's had lawsuits. He's been to court so many times against the commission, so many times against the state, all that. And he's won every time. It's not a crime. Bro, I went through so much yellow tape. You got to think with the size of my platform and my position in the community, like for sure, there was going to be prying eyes.
Well, right. You've actually gotten banned from playing baccarat.
Right.
You're one of 4 people.
Yeah, correct. Well, there's more than 4 people that have been banned, but the other ones that have been banned for like obvious cheating, stuff like that. Like there's a family, I think it's called the Tran family. There were some of the members of the family were dealers, some of the members were pit bosses, and the others were like the patsies, like the players. And together they got in cahoots and like cheated casinos. So there's like a group of people there banned from baccarat, but they were like actually cheating.
Well, you've said that you actually created some of the biggest tokens in crypto.
Yeah, we can move past the crypto thing.
Do you want to talk about it?
I did on Sean Kelly's podcast. My best friend is the founder of CoinMarketCap.com, and way back in the day, like he and I started some tokens that were top tokens. Yeah,
Do you still own big pieces of these tokens? Maybe.
I rather
maybe not.
ignore my role in crypto.
Okay. I've always avoided crypto. Really
Sure.
hasn't been my thing.
Sure.
I have a good friend, Willie D, who's made a ton of money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I understand that there's a term called there's many roads to Jerusalem, meaning that just because I made money a certain type of way doesn't mean that's the only way to make money.
I agree.
You know what I mean? I made money through stocks in my company. People made it through gambling. People made it through crypto. People have made it through music or whatever else. So when I hear it, I say, okay, cool. But in the same way that you said, I'm not going to invest in stocks until I really spend a good amount of time figuring it all out. I said the same thing. You know, I didn't want to go through the whole fear of missing out situation where I'm just throwing money in because someone gave me a tip. I never touched crypto because I don't know enough about crypto.
Fair enough.
You know, and I think that's really most people's biggest problem is that when they get into what looks like a money-making scheme,
Crypto's a scheme, 100%.
well, it's very easy to manipulate.
Yeah, I mean, it's not regulated.
No.
It's faceless, anonymous. It's all nonsense.
Well, and also when you look at, you know, look, I own Tesla stock, for example. I don't have enough money to move the stock in any direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a multi-billion, you know, it's worth hundreds of billions of dollars. I will never in my life have enough money where if I buy or sell, it'll affect the market as a whole.
Of course.
But if you take a relatively small coin, you could totally do a pump and dump.
Sure.
Extremely easily. You know, you could make a post if you're popular, say, hey, everyone buy. Suddenly the price goes up. You dump it all. Everyone's left holding the bag, and you walked away with a couple $1 million.
We do that in sports betting. It's exactly what we do. We find smaller sports books that not an extreme amount of money will adjust the line. So, like, let's say they get their data from, like, an originator, which is what everyone does, and the line is, like, +5, let's pretend. And we really want to bet one side of it. We'll take, call it make this up, $500,000 through multiple of our accounts and bet it on the side we think is definitely going to lose. What happens is it's adjusting the line because we know there's too much money up there that now the sportsbook has to adjust the line. And then we bet the other side at a way better price for $1 million.
Wow. Okay. So you do sports betting as well as cards and so forth?
Yeah.
Okay, but
I don't do sports betting in the commercialized typical way. Like I can't like sell you my picks. Like that's not. I don't. First of all, anyone who sells you picks is lying. Let's just get that out of the way. They're scam artists. But the way I do it, I couldn't even sell it to you. Like it's not how we do sports. Like we do like line manipulation and line discrepancy and stuff like that.
yeah, I interviewed Tim Donaghy, who was a NBA ref who went to prison for betting on games that he was refereeing.
Man.
You know about this?
Go on. Go ahead, tell me.
You know what this is? Okay. Well, what ultimately came out was it wasn't so much that he was cheating. He wasn't like making calls to help out his own bets. What he knew was based on his relationship with the other refs and how they felt about certain players. He knew, okay, if these referees were playing this game, this guy doesn't like LeBron, this guy hates KD, this guy's got beef with this other player. He knows already they're going to be harder on those players, and that's going to ultimately affect the game. And because of that, his percentages were a lot higher than the average person.
For sure.
Then he gets caught, and then they change the rules, where basically refs aren't announced until like the game starts, and people can't predetermine the situation. But yeah, I mean, I interviewed Pete Rose, rest in peace. He was betting on his own games as well. Since he was a manager, it was kind of a dangerous situation because he could adjust what players to take out and put in, and then that could affect the spread and so forth. Now, he claimed he was betting on his own games. They're saying sometimes he didn't, but once again, he's not in the Hall of Fame because of this. So, I mean, have you heard of actual cheating on the sports side in terms of the players themselves or the coaches?
Not really. I think that stuff's mostly kept. I think it's super rare that it happens, honestly. Mostly they all probably end up getting caught. And the ones that don't get caught did it on such a small scale and small sample size. I feel like there's so much liability there. And I'm really close with a lot of these top athletes. They don't even want to be seen publicly in a casino because they don't want to get in trouble. They have such huge contracts that they're like, why would I jeopardize it? Not even for cheating. Just if they're like, hey, we have a rule that says no sports betting. And I've been in so many conversations with like these top athletes where they're like, hey, we want to go to a casino. We have a rule, no sports betting. We don't want to get into a gray area being in the casino. Let's go to the casino, but let's not film about it. And I go, yeah, no problem. So I watched them like walk this line where they're like, we don't want no smoke with the league. I think it's super rare that happens, and so much liability that I don't know. I got no interest in it. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to get in trouble. I'm so past that in my life. I don't want to get in trouble about nothing.
Well, you actually worked with Lil Baby.
Yeah, I was with him a few days ago.
Yeah. So you basically coached him on how to play Baccarat?
Yeah, me and Lil Baby gamble all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm the one that connected him to a Jack Doherty to perform at his party this weekend. That's why I was in Miami.
$200,000 to perform. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm the one that helped make it happen, yeah.
Okay, so you said when you started working with Lil Baby, he won 24 out of 25 hands.
Correct. The first time we ever gambled together. He posted about it. That actually, you know what's funny? That was so early on that I have to give both Drake and Lil Baby credit to like making me famous. Them two posting me and co-signing me, that's like what really did it, especially Lil Baby. He, the first time he had me come out to Vegas and gamble with him, it was so cool, man. It was so cool. I was so early in social media. I was so like brand new. And he asked me to come to Vegas. He's performing. He has me come on stage. I'm on stage. I'm backstage, like the whole thing. And he's got all this entourage and all these, like chicks are there, whatever, the groupies, whatever it is. And as soon as he's done with his last song, he like looks at me and he's like, what's the move? And I'm like, I don't know, bro. I'm just like happy to be here, And we end up partying and gambling. And he had filmed us gambling. He filmed us cashing out. And he filmed a video, or somebody filmed a video of him standing next to me at the cage with all the chips. And he goes, I just won 24 to 25 hands thanks to my man. And just like hits me on the chest like that. And he posted all those videos, and like that gave a huge boost to my fame early on.
So how much did he win in those 25 hands?
So he was down $80K because he got to the table before me. He left the party. We were partying together, and he walked out before I walked out. When I got to the table, he was down $80K. We won the $80K back plus $250,000 profit. So he left net profit $250,000. And when I got there, he was net negative $80,000.
So he made $330,000
Right.
since you touched down.
Right.
Did he break you off something off the winnings?
He didn't, which I'm sure there's a lot of opinion about, and like hindsight. But honestly, I was just so happy to be there. And I didn't have like a move. Like I wasn't like, yo, I'm going to gamble. I'm going to help you win and you're going to have to give me a piece. It wasn't like that. I was just so like, he just hit me up. He slid in my DMs. That's how it all started. And he's like, yo, you want to come to Vegas and like hang out? It wasn't like this big master plan to gamble and make money. I was just happy to be there. And that's how it started. But it worked itself out. Because he started posting me so much. And we stayed friends to this day. Like I said, I was just in Miami with him this weekend. We stayed friends to this day. And that friendship was worth more to me just in sentiment than whatever dollars he would have gave me off $250,000.
Well, right. You're actually banned from playing Baccarat.
Right.
So you could only sit at the table
with
him. You couldn't actually gamble yourself.
That first time that we were there, I could sit at the table and I could sit next to him and I can coach him, but I couldn't buy in and I couldn't touch the cards or chips.
So it's legal to have someone sit next to you and tell you what to play?
I don't know how you can say it'd be illegal. That'd be a hard claim. Like imagine you're in any casino and you buy in for $100 and you're sitting next to somebody and you got a 16 and the dealer has a 10 and the guy next to you goes, you got to hit that, bro. It's basically the same thing that I did. I just happened to do it every hand.
Okay. What was the whole Drake thing about?
He was the first one. That was super cool for me. I remember it was like summertime. I just created Instagram. I had like 10K followers or something. And I'm in the pool. My buddy's having a pool party and my phone's just ringing like crazy. And at the time, I was so new to social media. I never had social media my whole life. I was like, there's no reason. I wasn't working anymore. I was like, there's no reason my phone to be ringing like this. I get out of the pool. I answer one of the calls. My boy Sam. It was Sam Lee. I'm like, what's up? And he goes, yo, Drake follows you. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. So I look, and I wasn't following Drake at the time, but I just look up Champagne Poppy and it said follow back. And I was like, oh, dang, I should probably hit that. So I hit the follow back, and then we just started talking immediately. And it was all about gambling, and it was just cool. It was just a cool deal. We became friends. It was just cool.
So do you guys gamble together?
We do not currently meet up at a casino and gamble together.
I feel like that's a loaded answer. I feel like you answered that very specifically. Well, because he posts his bets through Stake.
Yeah. I hope get him that steak deal.
Oh, you got him that deal?
I still have the contract in my phone right now.
Okay, because he hasn't done too well in terms of what he's posted publicly.
It's the Drake curse.
It's the Drake curse. They're saying, and I'm looking at an article from July, and at that point he had lost like $7 million.
Per his steak bet slips. Sure.
Right. Now, I'm assuming when I see this that he's not putting up his own money. That the fact that he's advertising steak when he's betting, that they're probably putting up the money for him. So if he wins, he wins. And if he loses, they covered the losses. Is it something like that?
I don't want to put nobody on blast, but bro, when you're talking about like one of the biggest superstars that's ever existed, like a modern day Michael Jackson, right? Bro, people will do a lot of things to engage that sponsorship. And
right.
All the way down to a small level. Like, you don't have to be Drake or Michael Jackson to get brands to do anything to work with you. So I'm not here to say what anybody is or isn't doing in that regard, but in theory, like, let your imagination go wild. It'll land where it's going to land no matter what.
Yeah, like I said, the fact he's not saying, hey, I just bet and I won or lost, is, look, I'm betting on steak. And that holds a lot of weight. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, my man Tony Yayo, you know, he was on my show at one point, and he basically was like sticking up for Drake when everyone else was bashing him. Next thing you know, Drake posts a picture with a free Yayo shirt, and now Yayo has a deal with Spencer's for free Yayo shirts.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, the Drake effect is a real thing.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. So it was something like that, and that's what I assumed, and you're not really denying it, so I'm assuming it's something like that.
I don't make Drake's Instagram posts. I'm not logged into his page.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Right. But there's other artists that you've worked with as well. Roddy Ricch.
Yeah, of course.
What do you
Love
guys do
Roddy.
together?
Huh?
What do you guys do?
Gamble. Yeah, gamble. I
You guys
like.
actually gamble together.
Yeah, I actually have a video of me, Roddy, and Lil Baby gambling together at the same time, same table.
Okay. How's Roddy done overall?
I think he's down small overall.
Do you do the same thing where he plays baccarat, you tell him what to bet on?
Sometimes we'll just all be there and people will just be gambling. Like, what a super common thing is, let's say there's like a festival, a music festival, all the artists will be there and I'll be there and we'll just all link in a casino and nobody's listening to nobody. They're just gambling and having fun and we're all partying, you know? So it's not always like super like we're sitting down and making money. Sometimes it's like I'm just present while they're doing their thing and will look for me for advice.
Well, you talked about at one point you had a sex addiction.
I don't think I ever used those words, but okay, I'm following.
Okay. This is on the No Jumper interview.
I know.
You said that you would have sex with 2 to 3 different girls per day if you're not traveling.
Sure, on a good day, yeah.
For your birthday, you would have 3 to 5 orgies per day with 15 people in each orgy.
Yeah.
These all women or?
Well, the orgies had guys too. It's not like me and 14 girls. It'd be like me and a few homies and then like 10 girls, you know?
I mean, you know, I've had threesomes with some of my homies and a girl.
Yeah.
Not really my thing.
Sure.
I'd prefer the guy not be there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've done it before. I'm not going to lie about it.
But you know what happens a lot in these like larger orgies? So first of all, if it was just you and 14 girls, it would never make sense, right? It just wouldn't.
Yeah, I've done me and 3 girls. But the girls are doing stuff with each other while I'm doing something with a girl, and then we'll rotate and stuff like that.
If there was 15 of you, then you're just talking about a lot of girls having sex with each other, and then you having sex with like 2 of them.
Right.
So if it was like legitimately 15 people, imagine you and 3 of your homies, and each one of you is taking like 3 girls. And then the girls are just, everyone's just like moving. So like, you know, like I got 3 girls, a homie got 3 girls, other homie got 3 girls. And I'm like, hey, I've been feeling you this whole time. Why don't you swap with this chick? You know, and then one of my girls will swap one of his girls, and then I have a different 3 and so on and so forth.
All right. Are these girls usually all paid for?
Never.
Never.
I do not pay for sex. Do not do it.
Okay. Men claim they don't pay for sex, but sex is never really free.
Agreed. We're all paying in some way.
Right.
I don't pay in cash, and I don't pay in that's the only one that really applies anymore in my life. I don't pay in cash. So, for example, the birthday story. I was traveling. So all these girls got to live this extravagant lifestyle and nobody had to pay for anything because I was footing the bill.
Right.
Which was fine.
Free rooms, free flights.
Yeah.
You take them shopping and stuff like that.
Yeah, we go shopping, we go on the jet, we hit all these cities,
Right. So
we
you're
go on the shows.
paying, but not directly.
I'm not like, yeah, it's not like, here's money, I need you to have sex with me. And it's also not like, hey, I'm going on this trip, you need to have sex with me. It's a
Right.
It just
But there
happens.
are some assumptions along the way.
I would assume that if I invite my one homegirl that I've been banging and I'm like, yo, bring some of your friends, that she's going to bring friends that will party the same. Because it'd be really weird for like one girl to be out the whole time and then like just watching everybody. It's like a natural transition. Like,
Right. But, for example, when you talk about men with means, right, what they say, a very common term, is you don't pay the woman for sex, you pay
Pay
for
her
her
to leave.
to leave.
yeah.
Right? So, yes, a lot of men with money could have 5, 6, 10 girlfriends, but they have to maintain relationships with all 10 of those girls and listen to their problems and deal with their emotions and, go out on dates and do a lot of stuff that, sex has nothing to do with it.
Sure.
And ultimately there's a time crunch and everything else like that. Whereas you could say, okay, here's $1,000, whatever else, we have sex, and then it's understood that I could go back to my normal life and you could go about your business. So, you know what I'm saying?
I'm
At the end of the day,
but I'm not
I don't
knocking
have a problem
tricking.
with either way.
Yeah, I'm not knocking guys who trick. Like, do what you do. Like, I don't know. It's just not my style. There's guys that want one woman and one woman only. I'm not knocking that style. There's guys that want to be a bachelor and have many women. Not knocking it. There's guys that want to pay for them to come and go, whatever. Not knocking it. My particular style, at least was my particular style.
So not anymore. You're saying you don't do that
No,
anymore.
I think I'm too old. I'm like burnt out now. Now I'm like lying to girls, telling them I'm out of town when I'm not, just so they don't come over.
Well, you're 33 at this point.
Yeah, in like 4 days or
In a couple
something.
days, yeah.
Yeah.
Happy pre-birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
But for example, you see situations like Diddy.
Sure.
You also see the American Apparel founder who recently got arrested by the feds. You heard about this?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. In a Diddy-like situation of sex trafficking and, potential sexual assaults. I believe he's gay, so I think it applies to men, although the Diddy stuff may apply to some men also. When you look at situations like that, by the way, have you ever met Diddy?
Never.
When you look at those situations, and a lot of them are very gray area. So like, you fly a girl out, you take her shopping, you pay for a room, you pay for a flight, you give her some money. Hey, here, go do your thing. Are you dating or are you sex trafficking? You see what I'm saying? It's a very gray line between these two situations.
I think I'm going to avoid sharing it on this show, but I have a whole theory behind the Diddy thing. Based on what you just said, like, it is absolute commonplace that if you hit it off with a girl and she lives in another town, that you would pay her way to you.
Right.
Like, it would be really hard to actually say the otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine meeting a girl and you're rich and she has a 9-to-5 and say, yeah, come see me, fly yourself out.
Yeah.
Get your own hotel room.
Yeah, take off from work,
Yeah.
get your own hotel, get your own flight,
Yeah.
pay for your Uber.
How often does this happen?
Never.
Exactly.
No, it's like, I got you. I want to come see you.
Right.
I'm asking you to take off of work. I'm asking you to leave your life.
Yes.
Let me buy you a flight.
Yes. Totally normal. Like for example, you see porn companies. They fly girls in from Miami, from Atlanta, whatever else. They're having orgies. It's being filmed. They're getting paid. They get flown back. Is that sex trafficking or is it business?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And this is why these situations are, it's not very cut and dry. And everyone's, jumping to the, to kind of vilify what Diddy was doing. But these orgies, these flying in of girls, he's like a cuckold. So he likes watching Cassie have sex with other men. That's
Whatever.
weird to me, but if
not
that's your
knocking it,
thing,
whatever, yeah,
there's
whatever.
nothing really illegal about that as long as everyone is willing to do it. And, I remember Boosie went on a whole tirade about like, come on, like what rapper doesn't fly in girls to do threesomes and stuff like that? And
I'm not knocking any fetishes. As weird as long as they're consensual and don't hurt nobody. If they don't hurt anybody,
to me,
doesn't matter to me.
all this seems consensual. You see what
Correct.
I'm saying? Like I've never heard of a situation yet where a girl was tied up and thrown in a back of a truck somewhere and was forced to have sex with Diddy or anyone else for that matter.
Well, there is a part of the story. I'm just unsure if it's been proven yet. I really just have no idea about minors. And if you're involving minors, I don't care anything else about the story.
That's all
you're
off
guilty.
the table, exactly. And that's what R. Kelly went to prison for. Right. I went through the whole case. It has to do with minors.
As soon as there's a minor,
civil lawsuits about Diddy with minors, but I don't know if I really believe those because a civil lawsuit is by definition a money grab.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also a lower threshold for guilt in a civil lawsuit than a criminal suit.
I'll tell you this though, whether you believe his allegations against minors are real or not, I can tell you about myself. I have never and will never be even close to a position to be accused of that. So I know I'm innocent, right? If he can find himself in a position to not just be accused, but actually see a way in court about it, that's guilty enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, the fact that he has no bail right now was stunning to me.
Well, that goes into my whole theory, which again, I don't think I'm going to dive deep into, but I think it's a way bigger picture than any allegations of sex trafficking. I think there's a way bigger situation at play against Diddy. And I have no idea the details, honestly, of his case. It's so far out of my life. Like, I'm not really intertwined. I don't consume a lot of content, and I definitely don't consume a lot of news because I think it's all fabricated nonsense to try to manipulate my beliefs. I really just stay away from it. I'm in my own lane. I know like what I do and what I don't do, but I have no idea what he did. I only know what he's being accused of based on like social conversations, you know?
Right. But you know people that know Diddy and have been involved in some of these parties and so forth? Possibly.
Sure. I can even touch more on that subject real fast.
Go ahead.
On how much of a changed man I am. And you can ask my boy Travis here because he just watched it. 2 very beautiful blondes who I have had sex with flew themselves to LA just to be here for the festivities. They're from Miami. And they hit me up. They go, we're in LA. Can we come over and crash? I said, yes. And I said, you guys have to sleep on the couch because I don't want to have sex with you guys anymore. And I made them sleep on my couch. All my other bedrooms were taken. They could have taken a bedroom. I think last night they took a bedroom. I think one of the rooms opened up and they took a room. But
okay.
That's how changed of a man I am.
Okay. Last question. You said this in one of your interviews that you have a plan that if you release it, it'll crash a bunch of the casinos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Can you give me something about that? I understand you're not going to give out all the information, but a rough idea of what this is.
There's actually there's a plan from 2 different angles. One is actively being done. It's in like early stages, but it's like active. And the other one is we started addressing it about 6 months ago. And I would say we're probably 60 days out from making a decision to follow through or not. And if we do, it'll be a long process.
A multi-year process?
To see it come to light, I would say 1 year from start. To see it come to an end, you probably have to add 2 years to it.
So 3 years. And that will actually involve casinos going out of business. Okay. Now, a lot of these casinos are public corporations.
Sure.
They're owned by the shareholders.
Sure.
The days of the mafia running Vegas is a thing of the past.
Okay.
By the way, Casino is one of my favorite movies.
Me too.
Of all time.
I have huge sentiment to that movie. Not even gambling related, just in my life, the way that movie played a role. Is
Well, my favorite Scorsese film ever.
Yeah.
People like to say Goodfellas. I say Casino.
I like Casino a lot.
Is there still a gangster element to some of these casinos? So, for example, if you go and do this and a casino actually goes out of business or is about to go out of business because of something you did, do you worry about just disappearing one day?
Yeah, I've been worried about it for a long time. When I say worry, I don't mean worry like I'm scared of it. Worried like trying to prepare for it. Like I said, I've been trying to die my whole life, so I don't really shy away from confrontation or consequence. I just want to be prepared for it.
Okay. Have you ever been threatened by a casino, or has there been anything of that, of that type of thing happening?
So my life was never threatened formally from a casino executive. That's not what happened. They've threatened to do a lot of things, a lot of damage in my life.
Such as?
I have this one on video. The president of MGM International sent his right-hand man to have a meeting with me where I sent them $9.5 million to put on my account, and they tried to not just rob the $9.5 million, but then also an extra $1 million, and it's all recorded. And they also told me they were going to do things such as report me to the IRS, right? Now, that by itself, I was fine. My taxes I overpay taxes. I mean, I ain't worried about that. My taxes are actually really, as a professional gambler, my taxes are so cut and dry. It's so simple.
Oh, yeah, man. You have to pay your taxes. Have you ever been audited before?
Never been audited.
Once you've been audited, you know to pay your taxes from that point on. I mean, I got out of that audit fairly well. I actually even made some money back.
That's good.
But going through it, you realize how it works and what not to do.
And
so,
how much
everyone pays
and how much
taxes.
it could shake your whole life up going through an audit with the IRS.
Oh, no. For months, I had to find every piece of paperwork I could possibly find and, and be prepared for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, pay your taxes. So, they threatened to get the IRS on you, but that's not a threat, really.
Oh, I know that it was like a fallacy. Like, there would be no findings. I wouldn't get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
They just wanted to shake my life up any way they could. And this is a particular threat that we have on camera.
It almost reminds me, remember that scene in Casino where the Asian guy won a bunch of money?
And they pay off the pilot to say the plane's broken.
Yeah, he was trying to get back on his plane, and they're like, "Oh, the plane's down, but come back to the casino. We'll comp you a room."
Yeah,
you know, and
he lost the money back plus $3 million.
Exactly.
He was winning $2 million.
Yeah,
they paid the pilot off to say the plane was broken.
Yes,
they bring him back to the casino. He loses the $2 million plus his own $3 million, I think.
Yeah. Does that type of thing happen? Do casinos do these kind of dirty tricks when they lose big?
That's light work. That's barely the tip of the iceberg.
Huh.
It goes so dark and so deep that I can sit here for hours just telling you.
Okay, so give me an example of when you've won big with the casino, what type of dirty things they've done to try to get their money back.
I'll give you one example where I had to get my lawyer involved. So I won a whole bunch of money, and it was between two casinos, and I was doing a chip transfer. What that means is two companies, unrelated, instead of making me go to each one of the cages, get cash, go to the other location, deposit the cash, gamble there, they'll just let me take both companies' chips to either casino I wanted. They'd confirm on the back end, yes, I'm accepting this amount of chips, and they would pay each other the balance on their own time. So they owed me a bunch of money. They went to cut me 2 checks, and it was missing $1 million. And there's really no way to prove where that $1 million went other than one thing, that they didn't clear the chips from the counter at the time they handed me these checks. If they took the chips off and put it into a rack under the desk, there'd be no way for me to ever find this $1 million. But they handed me the checks, and I opened it right then and there, sight unseen, and they hadn't taken the chips off the counter. So when I counted all the chips, I go, you see that number right there? They go, yeah. And I go, we're missing $1 million here. And they go, we don't know what to tell you. And they said, call the other casino. Call the other casino. They go, who has the chips? I go, they do. I go, so they go, how are we going to pay you that $1 million? They got the chips. And it became this huge circular thing, and I had to get my lawyer involved, and we got that $1 million.
How long did it take you to get that $1 million back?
I got it by the end of the day.
Oh, quickly.
As soon as my lawyer got involved. Yeah.
They didn't want the smoke.
They don't want that smoke.
Right, because they say that the safest place in the world for your money is on a casino table. I mean,
It's really hard to rob. It's really hard to physically rob chips from a casino. I mean, it's happened, but like, it's really hard.
You basically leave it there. You can walk away.
I do, yeah.
Go to a restaurant, go to the bathroom, go to the club, come back, and they'll be right there for you.
I've left millions in chips completely unattended at tables for days at a time. Yeah.
You've left millions on a table unattended.
Yeah, for sure.
Doesn't that sound kind of crazy, though?
Well, this is the situation. I always play at reserved tables. So nobody's even allowed to approach my table. And if somebody tries to, staff has to say, you need to leave, this is private. So I already have that barrier. Also, when you have a reserved table, there has to be staff sitting at the table no matter what. So there's always multiple staff at that table, no matter how many days I might be gone from it, in case I decide to show up. And when I get up and leave, they put this big plastic box, see-through, over the chips. There's so many like lines that they would have to go through, a thief, to try to get a hold of those chips and make it out.
Well, a thief, well, what about a staff member? You come back, there's $1 million missing. I want to see the camera footage. Oh, sorry, the camera malfunctioned today. Sorry, we don't have any of the footage.
You're not wrong, and it has been a concern of mine. The only reason that I felt okay, first of all, I stopped doing that stuff at some point. As my distrust with them grew, I stopped doing those things. But every single staff member from top to bottom would have to be in cahoots. And I can't imagine that a casino who makes billions of dollars is going to try to rob me for 1 million and everybody has to be in on it and nobody say a word. Like it just seemed too far-fetched. I go, these are like, some of them staff are regular people. They're not, sealed-lipped, gangsters. They're not thieves. They're just people.
Yeah, I could leave $1 million on the table and just walk away. I'd have to take it with me, put it in a safe somewhere. I wouldn't even trust anyone to watch it, honestly.
Well, I know something funny, actually. There's a guy, he's famous in poker. His name's JRB, real good friend of mine. Me and him played in a poker game on live TV. He won something in the realm of 1.8 million, right? I forget the exact number. This is on live TV. And I'm at the table playing as well. He lives in Vegas. We're playing in LA on TV. He wins whatever it is, 1.8 million. And he goes, oh, I got to get out of here. My plane leaves like in 30 minutes. He leaves the money there, doesn't say goodbye to anybody, gets on a plane and goes to Vegas. He phones into one of the other buddies at the table and goes, hey, I left whatever it is, 1.8 million. If you guys need a loan, because any of you guys end up losing, take the money. Let me know who owes me back.
Okay. And everything was above board?
Yeah. We're all friends. In that regard, we're all friends. So if somebody lost, I think nobody needed it. I don't really remember if anybody ever took the money. I think maybe one guy took like 100K out of it, something like that. But we all know each other. And so that's it. We take them, and the casinos have crazy surveillance. They ended up taking the 1.8 at the end and just putting it in a box. And I think somebody just took his box out for him and just brought it back to Vegas and handed it to him.
Well, you actually tell people not to gamble.
Yeah, I definitely discourage gambling.
Why is that?
We said earlier, man, these places exclusively are built on consumers losing money. It is a losing proposition. It is super rare to be a winner, and when you do win, you get banned and all that anyway. Almost everybody is going to lose.
Well, right. I mean, mathematically, every game is geared to the house.
Right.
Right? Period. Yeah. So, yeah, you might have some winning hands, but over time, you will lose a certain percentage.
Yeah, everyone's going to end up being a net profit loser.
Are there certain games that are better than others in terms of winning? People like to say like roulette has like slightly better odds and stuff like that.
Baccarat has the best odds.
Baccarat has the best odds.
It's roughly 49.5%.
So you're almost at 50.
Almost at 50. Yeah.
Okay. What's the second best?
I believe it's blackjack when you play correctly. Blackjack has a range, but I believe when you play correctly, it's second place.
Okay, so roulette is not up there.
I forget what roulette is. I more so play roulette for entertainment, not for profit.
Got it. There's no real skill there. It's just...
Yeah. That game's also super easy to cheat, and I've caught casinos cheating roulette too.
How do you cheat in roulette?
Oh, there's so many ways, man. Bro, I post videos on my Instagram all the time of mechanics that casinos use to cheat, like all the time. So I know all these people around the world that help build some of this stuff. I've seen guys, I have a video of it, I put it on my Instagram, where they popped off the top of the roulette board to show you the motor underneath it to show you how it's controlled. So they can control where the ball lands. There's so many ways.
Okay.
Here, I can show, actually, here's a really simple one. How about this? Really, really, really simple understanding. A roulette dealer does one motion, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 20 years. This is the motion. That's it. Spin the wheel, throw the ball. Spin the wheel, throw the ball. Just like Steph Curry. He hits huge percentage of his threes. Why can't this guy?
Oh. I see what you're saying. So there's something that he could do that'll give a slight edge to the house.
Or to the player.
Or to the player, depending on the kind of day he's having.
Depends on the kind of day he's having.
Right. But if they actually exposed that mechanically something is going on, you have an organization like the Wind, let's say, they could lose their license. You're talking about billions of dollars missing. Right. You never hear about any of this happening.
Well, everybody knows. Like, everybody in the back end knows these mechanics exist. Like, it's not like a secret. It's not like Steve Wynn himself is, like, sneaking in at night and, like, you know, putting in, like, these mechanisms. Like, they just exist. It's how these machines and these tables, and it's just how it was made, built, manufactured, and delivered. Like, everybody knows what's happening. So the real question is, well, why would these public companies that make billions of dollars risk their license? They're risking their license to one group, and it's the Gaming Control Board. Well, if there was no casino, there's also no Gaming Control Board. So the Gaming Control Board, it's like the bad guys policing the bad guys. What are you talking about?
Wow. Okay.
They only made a Gaming Control Board because people were getting mad that the Italian mob were rigging games in the casinos. They go, we need a way to police because you guys are gangsters and you're stealing our money. And they go, no problem. We'll put together an organization that'll keep us held accountable. And the people go, oh, and now we feel so much better about it. You know, like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So the Gaming Control Board, these are all like super regulated, super official, super legitimate departments and companies, and they're public and billions of dollars. It's all like legit. All they did was they just wrote the law to allow some room for this. So no one's breaking the law per se. They just wrote the laws so they don't have to break them.
Okay. Well, according to the internet, you're worth anywhere between $8.5 and $43.5 million.
Okay.
Is that accurate? It's a pretty big range.
Depending on what side of the range you're on, yeah, it's accurate.
Okay. Have you ever considered just retiring? Say, okay, look, I got enough money. I don't need the stress that comes with all this.
I thought about it a bunch of times, but something inside of me just feels restless, irritable, and discontented, and I'm forced to either create problems in my life or channel that energy into something productive. I've tried to sit idle, but idle hands do the devil's work, and I got to be real careful to sit stagnant for too long and just fall into a pit of darkness.
No, I feel you. I mean, I could technically retire right now. Like, this could be my last interview ever, but then it's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. You could actually just sell the watch on your wrist, move to like Montana, and still live the rest of your life retired.
This is
just
true.
for one watch.
And if I go to like a third world country like Thailand, forget it.
Generational wealth.
Generational wealth. Exactly.
Yeah.
I could buy a mansion.
Yeah.
You know, have 15 wives and live off the rest of my day off just this watch. But what am I going to do? I think I would go into a depressive state.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I like to live a certain lifestyle.
Yeah.
And my lifestyle is consumed with more of whatever it is. I just want more. If it makes me feel good, I bet 2 would make me feel better, you know? So eventually I'd run out of money, I guess. At that trajectory, I could have $10 billion, I'll probably still run out of money.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I say retire, I would have to scale down my lifestyle a little bit.
And I'm unwilling to do that personally. I don't want to scale down. I want to keep getting bigger.
So I keep working.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. I'm fine with that. And at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, you drive down the road, you see construction workers, you know, in 90-degree weather who are busting their ass to bring home $50,000, $60,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I go and talk to somebody that I find interesting, and that's the one thing I do that day. Who am I to complain that I'm working too hard and I'm not retiring yet? You see what I'm saying? It's just like...
You can even get a simpler job if you wanted to just pay for upkeep while you keep the rest of your money and retire and live on that. You know, like there's so many like ways to... But we are the type of person... Listen, you call this a podcast, right? This is what you title it?
Yeah, you can call it that, yeah.
How many people around the world have tried to start a podcast?
Millions.
Millions.
Yeah.
I can only name like 50, right? And you're one of the big ones. So you're obviously a different type of person than the other millions of people around the world. You were able to be successful. It's because you're better, right? One thing that makes you better is that you have this drive and you keep going.
I started early. I put out more content than everyone else. I was more aggressive in the way I do interviews. I pushed the envelope.
You were better than
I don't worry about, you know, social media or criticism. And yeah, over time, it does work out. Doesn't mean that I'm smarter or whatever else, but at the end of the day, if you work hard, you're focused on what you do, you know, you have a chance of it working out. There's some luck thrown in there too, and you can't say that's not part of it.
I think luck is when preparation meets timing.
Exactly.
It's so weird because the harder I worked, it seemed like the luckier I got.
But you don't actually invest your money.
I do. All my money's invested.
Back into other gambling operations.
Real estate.
I
have an enormous real estate portfolio. Oh, yeah.
How many properties do you own?
I don't even know. So I'm not...
You don't even know how many properties you own?
Well, I'm not a real estate
expert. How many
expert.
properties do you think you own?
No clue.
No clue?
No clue. So I worked with some guys that I trust who do real estate. And I go, I don't know a thing about real estate. Please stop asking me about real estate. Sometimes they'll call me like, what's your opinion? We want this one over this one. I go, what are you asking me for? I go, you're the real estate experts. So they have a piece to manage it. We all put money in together. I give an extra small piece for the management so they don't have to ask me questions. So I know it's in a safe place.
Are these multi-unit properties?
It's everything. I know for sure it's everything. We have apartment buildings, we have office buildings, we have warehouses, single family homes. It's everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I own my house outright.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've always felt that mortgages is like the coldest hustle ever, that's geared towards the banks. So, I have real estate as well, but, and I have people I know like Grant Cardone who are billionaires through real estate. Mm-hmm. I've done it through stocks. I'm definitely not a billionaire, but everyone's got their own tolerance for that type of thing. But that's the thing. I've always felt like the difference between being poor and rich, and I feel like there's really no such thing as a middle class. People like to say there is, but there really isn't. And the difference is that it doesn't really matter what your salary is or how much you bring in every year. People who become rich are able to take a portion of their salary, invest it, and have that money continuously make more money.
Right.
People who are poor, they can be making $200,000-$300,000 a year, but if they spend all that throughout the year and they have no way for their money to make more money, they will continuously be on this hamster wheel. And at one point, when their income starts to drop off, they're going to be in a bad place.
My dad gave me a really good piece of advice when I was young. He said, any idiot can make money. The hard part is holding on to it.
Yes. Well, yeah, holding on to it and then growing it.
Right.
Yeah, Warren Buffett changed my whole life because I remember I had lost everything, in my 20s. I, made bad investments. I spent money before I actually earned it and so forth. And I went broke. I was homeless at one point. And I said that if I ever do this again, and really the pain of losing everything is something that you'll hold on to that forever. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, when I make it back, I'm not going to act like it's going to come forever. And I'm also going to learn how to properly invest. So I spent a certain amount of time reading about how investment works and so forth. And that was by far the best time I ever spent, in terms of profit, learning how to take the money I make from Vlad TV, investing it and churning that into more money. And then once you understand how compound interest works over time, and now, I'm about 15 years into my investing. By far the best thing I've ever done with my money. Because if you just leave your money in cash, inflation will slowly chip away at it. You have 100,000, that next year it's only really 97,000. Mm-hmm. And that next year it's really down to 93,000. Now it's still that same 100,000, but it buys a lot less year after year as things become more expensive. And then also, once you figure out a way where your money can make more money, you want to spend on extravagant purchases less because you understand that, yes, this is a nice, it's a nice Gucci jacket, but after you buy it, it's worth pennies on the dollar. Whereas you could take that money, invest it, that $5,000 in a couple of years might be $10,000. Mm-hmm.
Spend the dividends if you want.
Exactly.
Because you always have the asset.
You'll always have the asset. Exactly.
My biggest thing was I needed a way to protect me from myself. So when I had the most amount of money that I had at that point in my life, I knew that there was a bug inside of me that would have flipped a coin for all that money if somebody matched me.
Yeah.
And I really needed a way to save me from me. So I helped create this fund, and I said, guys, get this money out of my hands, put it somewhere safe. I know you will. And we all just put the money in, and that's what it is.
No, smart, man. I remember I had a girlfriend who was Indonesian, and gambling is really big in Asian countries like that.
Sure.
And she would tell me about how she knew people, because she came like her family was like a top 1% family. Mm-hmm. They were like extremely wealthy. And she would tell me how not only gambling was really big in that culture, but also like superstition and religion and so forth. So people would based on the way the stars are and the way the weather is and based on the zodiac, they would say, okay, on this particular day, I'm at the absolute luckiest. The number 7 is considered lucky in Asian cultures. I know for sure I'm going to be lucky on this day. So they go in the casino and they bet their life savings, they lose it all.
Yep.
And you see this type of thing all the time.
Yep.
And man, that's scary. You're right. A coin flip, you could lose everything.
Yeah, and I knew that I was susceptible to doing that, given the right context. So I needed someone to save me. And we created the real estate fund.
There you go.
It's slow, it's boring, it's not sexy, but it's so safe.
Investing is boring.
Yeah.
Honestly, there are years where I literally don't touch my stock market. I don't buy or sell anything. I've had years like this. You know, Warren Buffett said most of his money has been sitting on his butt. Literally. He bought, I think, $100 million worth of Coca-Cola in the 80s, and he's never sold a share. And now, I think he makes about $100 million a year just in dividends.
Yeah, incredible.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, incredible.
From doing nothing. And when I look at, you know, look, like I've done well, but in retrospect, if I had just not sold a lot of my stocks, if I had just left them alone and just kept everything I ever bought, I think I would have actually done better than I've done now. It's the constant, no, I got to do that. I got to sell this and buy this. Okay, this is the hot new thing. I got to do this. And usually in the process, you know, and then also when you sell, you have to pay taxes on it, you know, on your profits. And, you know, and if it's a short term, it's a lot of taxes and so forth. So yeah, man, people that are constantly trading and jumping in and out and so forth, usually they lose over time. It's, you know, you have to have the same type of mentality in investing that you do in gambling. You have to look at it as a business as opposed to an emotional situation. Well, anyways, Mikki Mase, man, appreciate you coming in. You know, I've interviewed, you know, Adam is a gambler, you know, but I've never actually interviewed someone where their entire life was gambling from beginning to end, and how they've actually been successful at it, worked out a method, and actually worked out a whole business around it. And gambling is tough, man. You know, I remember one of my really close friends in high school started to gamble, right? We went to different schools. He got so obsessed with it that he started to pay people in the school to take tests for him. He gets caught, he gets expelled. So then he just goes all in. And he starts actually, I remember we talked about this, he started actually consulting with other sports gamblers. His thing was sports always. So he would basically work with other sports gamblers and take a fee for helping them bet. And, you know, they would lose and he would call them back with different accents to, you know, whatever else. Got fully into it, started taking drugs, started dabbling with cocaine. They found him dead at 23
Wow.
in a Las Vegas hotel room. And I remember being at that funeral and saying, I'm never going to touch cocaine. If this is what happens with cocaine, I'm never going to touch it. I'm 51 right now. I've never touched cocaine. I've had it offered to me multiple times over the years. I've always turned it down. But this is how, what's that?
I'm just kidding. I called you a nerd. I was just kidding.
That's cool. I'll be a nerd.
I was just kidding.
I'll be a nerd. I'll be the no cocaine taking nerd.
I was just kidding, bro.
That's cool. I mean, I smoke weed all the time. You know, I've tried ecstasy. I've done
I'm
mushrooms.
sober. Like, I'm with you.
No, it's all good, man. Listen, I had a couple randoms in Atlanta offer me some cocaine. I'm like, y'all are crazy right now with fentanyl. I've had 5 people I've interviewed die from fentanyl.
Yeah.
5 people.
Yeah.
But this is, between the gambling and the drugs, I had a close friend that I grew up with. It killed him at age 23.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've had a lot of people that you've come in contact with that have had very similar stories.
100%.
You yourself could have been one of those stories.
Yeah, 100%.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So congratulations for the success that you've reached, for getting sober, for turning it into a real business. And, you know, wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
That's what it is. Till next time.
Thank you.
Peace.